So imagine a security system with, no locks, no walls, and absolutely no alarm codes.
Which is pretty hard for us to picture today, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, in the ancient world, your life didn't depend on physical barriers at all. It depended entirely on acoustic recognition,
Right.
like picking out a single authentic voice in a sea of imposters.
It's a massive shift from how we think about safety. We're so used to, outsourcing our security to technology.
Right. Passwords, encrypted data, all of that.
Exactly. But if you strip all that away, you're left with this raw survival mechanism, just knowing exactly who is leading you and knowing who's trying to exploit you.
And that brings us to today's deep dive. Today is Sunday, 26 April 2026, which is the fourth Sunday of Easter. And we're looking at the gospel passage of John, chapter 10, verses 1 through 10.
Yeah, a text that honestly a lot of people think they already know.
Oh, for sure. You've probably seen like a dozen stained glass windows of the Good Shepherd holding a fluffy lamb.
Right. It's this very comforting, almost sleepy image.
Yeah. But when you actually dig into the Greek here and you understand the historical context, it is anything but comforting.
No, it's really not. It's a high-stakes, life-or-death survival manual.
So where do we start? I mean, to decode this, do we just toss out the modern farm aesthetic entirely?
You have to, yeah. If you're listening right now and picturing a cute red barn with, neat little white fences, you've got the wrong image entirely.
Okay, so paint the picture for us. What did first century Middle Eastern shepherding actually look like?
Well, we're talking about an arid, really unforgiving landscape. And the sheepfold mentioned in verse 1, not a cozy barn.
Right.
These were often large communal enclosures in the towns. They had these high, rough stone walls, usually topped with thorny briars to keep predators out.
And because it's communal, this isn't just one guy locking up a dozen sheep, right?
Exactly. You'd have multiple shepherds bringing their distinct flocks into this one massive holding pen as night falls.
Wow, okay. So with a hired gatekeeper watching the one opening, by morning, you just have this chaotic, noisy sea of hundreds of sheep mixed together.
Which presents a huge logistical problem. How do you sort them out?
Right. I mean, that sounds like a nightmare.
It does. And this is where the text sets up its core conflict right away. Jesus says, "The one who doesn't enter by the door but climbs in another way is a thief and a robber."
But the one who uses the door is the true shepherd.
Exactly. The true leader walks through the front door with legitimate authority. The threat, the thief, is the guy trying to scale that high stone wall to snatch what isn't his.
It's wild to think about because today, our security is all about what we call zero trust, like two-factor authentication, retinal scans, because we fundamentally don't trust anyone.
Right, but this ancient sheepfold operates on the complete opposite premise.
Yeah, the security system for separating those flocks in the morning isn't a lock. It's 100% relational intimacy.
Because the text explicitly says, the sheep hear his voice, he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out.
The security is entirely acoustic.
Yes. The shepherd doesn't go in with a sheepdog. He doesn't check color-coded ear tags.
He just stands at the gate and speaks.
That's it. He sings a specific call or uses a certain tone, and out of that whole chaotic sea of animals, only his specific sheep detach and follow him.
Okay, but wait. How robust is an acoustic security system, really?
What do you mean?
Well, think about how easily people get fooled by impersonators today. Or, deep fakes. We have AI that can clone a voice in seconds.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Even without tech, couldn't a human thief just stand at the gate and mimic the pitch or the whistle of the real shepherd? It seems incredibly vulnerable.
And that is the exact vulnerability the text anticipates, actually.
Well, how so?
By making a crucial distinction. It doesn't say they just recognize the pitch of a generic call. The key phrase is he calls his own sheep by name.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's not just about the acoustic properties of a sound wave. It's about the psychological and really the physiological response to being known.
So it's not just the sound itself. It's the shared history embedded in that sound.
Precisely. Look at mammalian psychology or even human attachment theory. Hearing a caregiver's voice, especially hearing them call your name, triggers a profound neurological response.
Like it literally lowers cortisol and stuff.
Exactly. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It signals absolute safety.
Wow.
A stranger might try to mimic that soothing tone, but they don't have that shared history of, finding water, surviving the valley. The sheep are responding to being truly known.
That reminds me of the cocktail party effect in psychology. You can be in a loud room tuning out 100 conversations, but if someone way across the room says your name,
Your brain snaps to attention instantly.
right, because your auditory cortex prioritizes it. It's tied to your identity.
And the text is actually ruthless about what happens when that identity isn't recognized. It says, a stranger they will not follow, but they will flee from him.
They don't just ignore him, they literally run away.
Yes, it's an instinctual rejection. The unrecognized voice is processed by the nervous system as an active existential threat.
So in a world full of predators, neutrality just isn't an option.
No, not at all. You either follow the voice of ultimate safety or you run for your life.
But even with all that, the original audience listening to Jesus was completely lost, weren't they?
Oh, entirely. Verse 6 gives us this beautifully blunt moment of textual honesty.
Right. It says this figure of speech Jesus used with them, but they did not understand what he was saying.
Which is funny because these are people who lived in an agrarian society. They knew how sheepfolds worked.
But they were scratching their heads anyway.
Yeah, because they understood the mechanics of farming, but they totally missed the spiritual translation. They didn't grasp the magnitude of what he was saying about human leadership and divine reality.
They didn't realize they were the sheep, and they were surrounded by thieves.
Exactly.
So because they don't get it, the text pivots. Jesus shifts his metaphor entirely.
Right. He says, truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep.
And he adds that all who came before him were thieves and robbers.
It's a structurally brilliant but really provocative shift.
Yeah, because he goes from being the guide, the shepherd walking ahead, to being the actual threshold of safety itself, the physical door.
By doing that, he establishes an exclusive, non-negotiable entry point.
Right. He's saying any religious leader, political messiah, or cultural voice that tried to claim ultimate allegiance without offering true life is a thief.
He explicitly brands them as robbers, yes.
But logically, there's major friction there for me. You can't be both the traveler and the threshold, right?
It does seem like a mixed metaphor to our modern ears.
Yeah, like how do you move from a dynamic walking leader to a static wooden object on hinges? It kind of breaks the visualization.
Well, it breaks our modern understanding of a door, for sure, but it aligns perfectly with the historical reality of wilderness shepherding.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So we talked about the large communal sheepfolds in the towns, but during the warmer months, shepherds took their flocks out into the hills for days at a time.
Out in the open wilderness.
Right. And they'd build these temporary circular enclosures out of loose field stones or thorny bushes to protect the sheep at night.
Okay.
And these wilderness sheepfolds, they didn't have wooden gates, no hinges, just a narrow gap in the stone wall to let the sheep in and out.
Wait, so there literally is no physical door to close?
None. When night fell, the shepherd would light a fire, and he would physically lie down across the gap in the wall to sleep.
Oh, wow. His body became the door.
Exactly. No sheep could wander out into the dark without stepping over him, and no wolf or thief could enter without physically going through the shepherd first.
That is incredible. He literally is the door. That completely changes the weight of the metaphor.
Doesn't it? It's not a piece of wood. It's a living barrier.
Yeah. When he says, I am the door, he's saying, I am laying my very life across the gap between you and the danger outside.
It's an assertion of ultimate sacrificial protection.
Which fundamentally reframes how we view spiritual and psychological boundaries, honestly. Well, when we hear the word sheepfold, or we think about, like, submitting to a specific leader or truth, we naturally bristle. We view it as a cage.
Oh, right. We think of boundaries as restrictive, something that limits our options.
Exactly, because we want autonomy. Being in a pen sounds oppressive. But look at the promises made to the person who walks through this specific living door.
Verse 9 says, if anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will go in and out and find pasture.
That phrase, go in and out, is huge, isn't it?
It's the absolute key to the passage. It's an ancient Hebrew idiom for living life fully, confidently, and without terror.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you see it in the Old Testament to describe citizens going about their daily business in a secure city. The goal isn't to lock the sheep away forever in the dark.
Right. The sheepfold is just the place of rest and impenetrable safety.
The pasture is where they actually feed, grow, and live in the sunlight. The shepherd as the door is what facilitates that life-giving rhythm.
So the boundary is actually what makes the freedom possible.
Precisely. Because you have absolute security, because you know there's a protector laying across the gap, you aren't paralyzed by the threats in the wilderness.
You have the ultimate freedom to just go out and graze. You don't have constant anxiety about defending yourself.
Now contrast that rhythm of freedom with the brutal reality of the intruder. Verse 10 delivers one of the sharpest dichotomies in ancient literature.
Oh, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy, right?
Yes. While Jesus says, I came that they may have life and have it abundantly, the contrast is entirely about core motives.
The thief's motive is pure extraction. The thief climbs over the wall because he has zero legitimate investment in the long-term well-being of the flock.
Exactly. He views the sheep merely as a resource to be consumed for his own immediate gain.
He just takes what he wants and leaves ruin in his wake.
In economic terms, the thief operates on a model of absolute deficit. Every interaction leaves the sheep diminished.
Until they're destroyed.
Right. But the true shepherd operates on a model of absolute surplus.
Surplus. I like that.
Yeah, the Greek word translated as abundantly here is parison. It implies a superabundance, something that overflows its bounds, remarkably more than what is strictly necessary for survival.
He doesn't just want the sheep to scrape by or barely survive the night. He wants them to thrive.
An overflowing surplus of vitality. The profound claim here is that true leadership and the divine reality of Christ isn't about diminishing human flourishing. It's the only source of its maximization.
The thief takes life, but the shepherd gives his own life so the flock's life can overflow.
Exactly.
So how do we pull this ancient agrarian survival manual into our reality today? Because, I mean, you and I don't live in the Judean hills.
No, we aren't worried about literal wolves.
Right. But the psychological and spiritual dynamics of this text are playing out in our lives every single day.
Absolutely. We live in an era of unprecedented noise. We don't have literal thieves climbing stone walls, but we are surrounded by countless voices.
Oh, yeah. Cultural influencers, political pundits, endless algorithmic feeds.
And they are actively trying to bypass the front door of our critical thinking. They act exactly like the thieves in the text.
Yeah, that's a great point. They mimic the tones of authority or outrage or comfort just to hijack our attention.
They're scaling the wall to get into the sheepfold of your mind.
Think about how an algorithmic echo chamber works. Its core motive isn't your abundant life, it's extraction.
It wants to steal your time, kill your nuance, and destroy your peace of mind to harvest your engagement.
Yes, it's a completely extractive relationship that leaves you diminished, exhausted, and anxious. It offers no pasture, only the constant panic of the wolf.
Which makes that acoustic security system we talked about more vital than ever.
Right. In a world where every algorithm and ideology is trying to sound like a trusted shepherd, how do you tune your ear?
The text insists you have to develop the relational intimacy to recognize the one voice that actually calls you by name.
The voice that offers surplus rather than deficit.
You have to learn the difference between a voice that incites you to scatter in fear and the voice that invites you to go in and out and find pasture.
It really demands an audit of the voices you follow.
Yeah.
Or the forces you allow to guide your daily life, laying themselves down to protect you.
Do they lead to a profound internal sense of safety and abundant life?
Or are they slowly extracting your joy, ramping up your anxiety, and leaving you empty?
That is the ultimate test of the door. The promise of John 10 is that there is a legitimate entry point to reality.
A shepherd who doesn't view you as a commodity to be consumed, but as a specific, deeply known individual worthy of ultimate protection.
But here is a final provocative thought for you. Recognizing that voice requires quietness. It requires intention.
Yeah, it does.
It requires learning the history of the shepherd so intimately that when the thief mimics the call, your nervous system instantly recognizes the fraud.
The survival manual is telling you don't settle for the voices climbing over the wall. Wait for the one who walks through the front door. Well, as we close out this deep dive today, we want to leave you with a short reflection. A concluding prayer derived directly from the survival mechanics of the text we've unpacked today.
That sounds wonderful.
Lord Jesus, Good Shepherd and True Door, help us to intimately know your voice amidst the deafening noise and the false promises of this world. Protect our minds and hearts from the thieves who seek only to steal our peace and destroy our hope. Lay yourself across the gap of our vulnerabilities, guide us safely out of our fears, and lead us into your rich pasture, so that we may not merely survive, but experience the overflowing abundant life you promised. Amen. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.